Chapter 24. No deal. Wait. Jude's words reverberated off the concrete walls. Yes? Val asked, as Max and Zara looked on with wide eyes. My brother Callum has been in here for months, and he doesn't even have a hearing scheduled. When will that happen? I don't know. That's a separate case, and he is facing serious terrorism charges, Val said coldly. I don't want to leave without knowing my brother will have a hearing. You are not in a position to bargain for your brother, Mr. Kane. Mr. Simon, maybe you can explain this to your client, she said with clenched teeth. Jude, Max began. I'm not leaving without a deal for my brother. There will be no negotiation for your brother. You take the deal for yourself or you stay. I have no problem releasing Zara and leaving you in here. I'm not leaving without Jude, Zara said, and until I'm out, there's no one to call off the protesters. You admit it. There's not enough evidence, and clearly the people holding signs outside the National Detention Center got someone's attention, or you wouldn't have come. It seems to me that we are in a position to negotiate, Jude said. At this point, they were all standing and Max was visibly uncomfortable. He was terrified Jude might have blown the deal to get them out. But he also knew how desperate they were to help Callum. Is there anything you can do to move his case along? Max asked. I think if we knew he would have a hearing or we had some indication his case was in motion, it would go a long way. Val crossed her arms and glared at them. I'll make this clear. There is no negotiating for a terrorist. We have him on video using an illegal firearm to destroy an NADF drone. It would not be a difficult task to prove your father owned that firearm and implicate the entire Slate Creek SAC in a plot to attack a military target. Now, unless you want your family, your entire SAC, and all your supporters outside to be rounded up by the NADF and join you in here, I suggest you take our deal and forget you mentioned anything about your brother. Max looked at Jude and Jude looked at Zara. I'm prepared to stay, Zara said, looking at Jude. No, Jude said. We'll take the deal. We'll call off the protesters and go back to Slate Creek. Are you sure? Zara asked, taking his arm with both of her hands. I'm with you all the way. Yes, I'm sure, Jude said. He looked into her eyes and put his hand on her shoulder. This is a lot bigger than Callum. We're responsible for more than just ourselves. Okay, then let's go home, she said, embracing him for the first time in weeks. Here are some insights. For context, all the protests have had an impact. They got President Blake Connor's attention, and now there is a deal to get Jude and Zara out of the detention center. It turns out Adams actually worked in their favor. Adams analyzed the situation, analyzed the protests, and analyzed everything that it had observed about the Sparrows and about Jude and Zara, and concluded that, in fact, they never actually broke any laws. Despite the fact that their efforts have kind of flown in the face of the government's plans, nothing they did was illegal. So Adams advised the president, hey, if you want this protest to go away, if you want to restore stability as quickly as possible, the best thing to do is just cut Jude and Zara loose. Let them go home. They didn't do anything wrong, and that way the protesters will go home and everything will calm down. So Adams convinced the president, which is why the soldiers stood down, why they stepped back, and they didn't round up the protesters, and Jude and Zara have their ticket out of there. But, of course, the whole point of everything that they were doing was to get Callum, and there was no mention of Callum. So Jude tried to be stubborn. He said, look, I don't want to go anywhere without my brother. But after the prosecutor explained to him what that would mean, that he could possibly implicate Rod and Maren Kane, his parents, and the entire Slate Creek SAC, and basically he's putting his entire SAC at risk, he decided, you know what? That's a battle for another day. Let's take the deal. Let's go. I am not about to put my parents and my whole SAC at risk. It's too big. So that's the deal. So now we're going to move forward, but we've got attention. So we've got Jude and Zara out of detention, but Callum is not. And in fact, his case is not even moving. So there's still the main goal that the Sparrows are working for. And the Sparrows now have power because they've been seen and they've been heard. But the government hasn't changed course. They still have their goals. So we still have this tension in the air, and now we're going to see who makes the next move. So join me in chapter 25.